The Los Angeles Rams are back, and they're hungrier than ever in the City of Angels, where stars shine bright. A new chapter unfolds on the gridiron. Buckle up.
Staff, management, and advertisers.
All right, what's up, everybody? Happy Friday. It is PTL time. I'm so glad you all are joining us, PTL Nation. We're going to try to get to 160,000 subs on YouTube over the weekend. That would be awesome. Going strong, approaching 60,000 on the Pushing the Limits Facebook page. And listen, we appreciate all of you for joining us. And we have some great stuff and some not so great stuff to be discussing today. Here's the good news. We're starting off here just in a few minutes. Here's a guy that I've been wanting to have on the show for a very long time. He's a war veteran. He's a political commentator. He's a hero, even though he doesn't like to be called that. And I just think his political commentary is brilliant. I just think he's great. And the man, the myth, the legend, the one, the only Jolly Good Ginger will be joining us coming up here in about 10 minutes or so. So certainly looking forward to having Jolly on the show. He is a very popular figure on social media, and there's a reason for that. And he's been in Minneapolis all week reporting on what's going on down there. Every day that goes by, it appears as though there's more pressure on Donald Trump from the MAGA folks to put in the Insurrection Act into place. I certainly have my opinions on that. I think that would be horrible. Horrible for Minneapolis, horrible for the state, horrible for the country. And when I see what's going on right now in Donald Trump's presidency, and I see what's going on all over the world, we could be talking about the war in Ukraine. We could be talking about what's going on in Iran, where over 13,000 people have been murdered. And by the way, Donald Trump puts on a Truth Social, he wants people to get out there and protest. Boy, he really helped. We could be talking about what's going on in the Middle East, the conflicts between Israel and Iran, Israel and Palestinians, what's going on in Gaza. But Donald Trump will lie to all of you and tell you that he's ended 8 wars, which is obviously not true. And then we go to the home front here. And, you know, we were told by many in the MAGA world that this was an America first agenda. Taking over another country and stealing their oil, that's not America first. That's Donald Trump first. That's Donald Trump tech billionaires first. Oh, yeah, by the way, the official sell for $6 million of oil in Venezuela was sold to a man who donated $7 million to Donald Trump's campaign. I told you this was going to happen. This is about oil. This is about money. This is about Donald Trump's donors. This was never about getting a bad man who happens to be president and indicting him and bringing him back to this country. That's not what this was about. So for any of you out there that think that this is still an America First agenda, you're obviously very ill-informed and you're very uneducated. He has this meeting with Machado yesterday. I told you that this was going to happen. It was passing the Nobel Peace Prize, which, by the way, you're not allowed to do. You can give somebody the medal, but Donald Trump will never be the Nobel Peace Prize recipient. It's an ego thing for Donald Trump. And now all of a sudden, Donald Trump is saying all these nice things to Machado. That's what these world leaders do everywhere. It's what Benjamin Netanyahu has been doing. It's what Vladimir Putin has been doing. It's what Kim Jong-un has been doing. If you appease Donald Trump and his ego, you will get what you want. That's what makes Donald Trump so dangerous. That's what I keep telling all of you. And it continues. And while all this stuff is going on, what is Donald Trump doing this weekend? He took a half day today. He took a half day so he could head out to Mar-a-Lago. Millions of dollars it costs the taxpayers every single day when Donald Trump decides to hang out at one of his own resorts. Millions of dollars that go in the Trump family's pocket. And Donald Trump is going to be hanging out at Mar-a-Lago. I don't know. Maybe he'll be hanging out with Vanilla Ice. Who knows? For 4 days. Well, the world is on fire in a bad way, and we all know what's going on in Minneapolis. And I am so sick of the false and fake narratives coming out of the White House and people on the right. It's sick. I don't know how many times you need to see this video of Jonathan Ross for you to understand that this was not self-defense. I don't know how many times you need to hear about the facts. The fact of the matter is that Ross left the scene of an officer-involved shooting 30 seconds after it happened, completely against protocols. We were told that there was internal bleeding, even though we've had no evidence other than, quote, 2 unnamed sources. And MAGA seems to be going with that. The guy was barely even grazed by the vehicle, let alone hit. We were told that he almost lost his life. We were told that he had internal bleeding. Thank God he's still alive. Are you kidding me? The Daily Mail took pictures of him the next day in front of his house moving boxes and furniture. But yeah, he had internal bleeding. Let me tell you something. Jonathan Ross had internal bleeding just like Donald Trump had bone spurs when he dodged the military multiple times. Give me an effing break. This is a lie. The whole thing is a lie. An hour after the shooting, you had Kristi Noem calling her a domestic terrorist. They had already made up their mind, including the vice president and the president. They all made up their mind, and we're supposed to expect that there's going to be a thorough investigation. Are you kidding me? They won't let local law enforcement help. They won't let anybody in the state of Minnesota help, and they won't have an independent investigation because it's a huge cover-up. That's why. And this idea, and a lot of people disagree with me on this. Guess what? I don't care. Go back to Germany over 100 years ago. You go back to the Holocaust. Think of the days when Mustache Man's soldiers were randomly going up to people and asking them for ID if they were Jewish. So tell me, what is exactly going on here in Minneapolis? You have ICE agents that are randomly going up to people, asking them for ID, asking them if they're a naturally born citizen. It's completely illegal. Why? You need reasonable or articulable suspicion that somebody may have committed a crime to force them to ID themselves. But the excuse that we are hearing from the White House is, well, if they're around the vicinity of an investigation, we are allowed to ask for ID and see if they are a naturally born citizen or if they're a citizen of this country in general. No, that's not true. So let me get this right. Let's just say you're looking for an undocumented immigrant that's a violent criminal that lives in a certain neighborhood on a street. So you're telling me if a lady walking on the public sidewalk 3 or 4 houses down is in that area, they have to show ID and they have to prove proof of citizenship? No. Where is your reasonable and articulable suspicion that that person has committed a crime? Because that's what you need to do that. And that's why I make comparisons back to Mustache Man days in Germany. That's why I do that. That is an absolute comparison. Do you guys want to live in a country like that? You look at the polls that are out pretty much everywhere, even right-wing media. You look at the polls out there, most people, unless you're a racist, unless you're MAGA through and through, most Americans do not agree with what Donald Trump is doing with ICE. They don't agree with how they're carrying this out. They don't want innocent people on the streets to be forced to show their papers. That's not the country that they want to live in, and it's not the country that I want to live in. And the excuse we hear from people on the right is, if, Tim Walz and the mayor could just work with the Trump administration so we could go into the jails, that is an excuse, and that is a cop-out. How do we know this? Because the overwhelming majority of people that ICE is arresting in Minneapolis right now are not people that are in jail. So that is a lie. Now listen, I have absolutely no problem if ICE agents are doing, for example, what they were doing in the Obama days. But you see, those ICE agents, back when Obama deported millions of people, weren't wearing scarves over their face like the cowards that they are. They weren't getting a $50,000 bonus for 47 hours of training. That's also a lie. And they weren't terrorizing communities. Barack Obama did it the right way. And that's why local law enforcement, both the right and the left, were working with the Obama administration because they were treating people with respect. They weren't sending nonviolent criminals to El Salvador prisons. They didn't have Dr. Phil there doing interviews and making it a spectacle. They weren't gleeful. They weren't separating families with glee. Hey, look at what we did. You can go back with them. That wasn't the language and the verbiage that was used in the Obama days. Don't you understand? They're using that language now. They're gleeful. They're happy. Oh, we got another brown person out of the country. That's what these people are doing. Don't you understand the difference between the Obama days and now when you hear these MAGA morons that say, why didn't you have a problem with it when Obama was doing it back in the day? Because they were doing it differently and they were treating human beings with respect. That's why. That's why. They weren't terrorizing communities. You didn't have a bunch of people with scarves over their face. They weren't executing people in the streets either. There's a difference. That's what the Trump administration is doing right now. How do you not see this? And listen, I said this all along. I said this years ago. When I heard this saying, make America great again, it really was make America white again. That's what this is all about. This is about the color of your skin. This is about race. You really think that Trump supporters out there care about fraud when they voted for the fraudster in chief, the guy who ran Trump University and had to pay back $25 million because they defrauded a bunch of people? You really think MAGA care about fraud? Of course they don't. These people don't care about fraud. If they hear that a Somalian was, a Somalian family was broken apart, doesn't matter if somebody in the family has been living here for decades. It doesn't matter. They don't care. They don't care. And they put these people on a pedestal like the Nick Shirleys of the world, who, by the way, exposed absolutely nothing. There haven't been any new investigations. They haven't found any new fraud after any of these Nick Shirleys videos were made public. They didn't find anything new. And then you have these right-wing grifters that are agitators. That's what they are. They film. They try to get into physical altercations. They try to have things happen to them so that they can record it, put it on YouTube, and make a lot of money. We could be talking about Cam Higbee or Nick Sorter or any of these other right-wing grifters. That's what they do. And they think if they knock on businesses and they knock on doors, that somehow they're exposing fraud. They're not exposing anything but themselves and what a bunch of bigots they are. That's what they're exposing, and the grifters that they are. And you have people like Nick Sorter, who hangs out in front of Tim Walz's home screaming retard in the middle of the night. And these people call themselves journalists, members of the media. Are you kidding me? They're not members of the media. They're not journalists. They're idiots. They're scam artists is what they are. And now the Good family have to worry about the possibility that her widow might be investigated because she was recording and saying some not so nice things to the ICE officer? I mean, you got to be kidding me. What are we doing as a country? Really, what are we doing? These are sick people, and these are sick times that we are living in. And I really don't know what else to say other than it needs to stop. Now, going to the protesters, listen, I'll be the first one to admit, if you're a protester, I don't think it's smart, even though it's your legal right, I don't think it's smart to follow ICE officers because I believe only bad things will happen. They're not going to stop doing what they're doing because somebody's following them. If anything, they'll stop and arrest you, and I don't want something bad to happen to you, even though it's not against the law. I don't think that's a smart thing to do. You can't throw things at officers. You can't make physical contact with officers. And if they tell you to do something, sadly, you probably have to do it. If they ask you to show ID and they don't have any reasonable or articulable suspicion that you've committed a crime, then you don't have to do so. And please record. And I do agree with Tim Walz. Record everything. Take out those cell phones and record everything. Find out who these officers are. And I know it's very difficult to do when they're wearing scarves all over their faces, but please do that. I think it's really important. We are living in very dangerous times right now. I don't know if the Insurrection Act will be implemented or not. Certainly, Donald Trump has a lot of pressure on himself to do so. I'm hoping things lower, the temperature lowers a little bit in Minneapolis, but there's no evidence that's going to happen. We're heading into another weekend now where we don't have any more new answers. All we have is video evidence, and the evidence is as clear as day to me that officer did not act in self-defense. He did not act in self-defense. All right, so here's what we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be joined by the Jolly Good Ginger. We'll be back in 90 seconds. The Jolly Good Ginger, one of the most popular left-leaning commentators and reporters. He's out there in Minneapolis. He'll join us next. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. It's Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York-style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Here's the deal. The country's a mess, and America's youth is stuck at the center of a tug-of-war between propaganda, billionaires, and political clowns who think TikTok is a national security threat, yet can't open their own email. But the real threat that keeps them up at night isn't TikTok. It's the power of the youth vote, and that's what the Unfuck America tour is after. We're traveling the country, hitting campuses and cities, exposing the right wing's playbook and calling out all the tricks they use to hook young people. We saw the youth vote shift in 2024, and if we don't reclaim that momentum now, we lose the future, our future. We're not bankrolled by billionaires, corporations, or dark money. We're backed by regular people like you, who won't sit back while the rich strip this country for parts. We need you to help us stay on the road to push back against the misinformation machine. Click the link in the description or head over to unfuckamericatour.com to donate, because nobody else is coming to fix this mess.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Gina Yusufzai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and fees. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid gets a shot at the starting line. Just a reminder, our website is www.hockeyforkids.org.
You are way too smart, way too talented, way too good to be where you are. You are meant to be making way more money, feel way hotter in your body, and having way more fun. Hi, I'm Nicole Mitchell, and I'm a life coach. I help you get hotter and richer. If that is what you're looking for, you can find me at NicoleMitchell.com. My name, Nicole, is with a K, NICOLE, You can reach out to me on my website or on Instagram, and I will be happy to be in touch and figure out what you're looking for and how I can support you in getting there.
Here's the deal. The country's a mess, and America's youth is stuck at the center of a tug-of-war between propaganda, billionaires, and political clowns who think TikTok is a national security threat, yet can't open their own email. But the real threat that keeps them up at night isn't TikTok. It's the power of the youth vote, and that's what the Unfuck America tour is after. We're traveling the country, hitting campuses and cities, exposing the right wing's playbook and calling out all the tricks they use to hook young people. We saw the youth vote shift in 2024, and if we don't reclaim that momentum now, we lose the future, our future. We're not bankrolled by billionaires, corporations, or dark money. We're backed by regular people like you, who won't sit back while the rich strip this country for parts. We need you to help us stay on the road to push back against the misinformation machine. Click the link in the description or head over to unfuckamericatour.com to donate, because nobody else is coming to fix this mess.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York-style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
You are way too smart, way too talented, way too good to be where you are. You are meant to be making way more money, feel way hotter in your body, and having way more fun. Hi, I'm Nicole Mitchell, and I'm a life coach. I help you get hotter and richer. If that is what you're looking for, you can find me at NicoleMitchell.com. My name, Nicole, is with a K, NicoleMitchell.com. You can reach out to me on my website or on Instagram, and I will be happy to be in touch and figure out what you're looking for and how I can support you in getting there.
Here's the deal. The country's a mess, and America's youth is stuck at the center of a tug-of-war between propaganda, billionaires, and political clowns who think TikTok is a national security threat, yet can't open their own email. But the real threat that keeps them up at night isn't TikTok. It's the power of the youth vote, and that's what the Unfuck America tour is after. We're traveling the country, hitting campuses and cities, exposing the right wing's playbook and calling out all the tricks they use to hook young people. We saw the youth vote shift in 2024, and if we don't reclaim that momentum now, we lose the future. Our future. We're not bankrolled by billionaires, corporations, or dark money. We're backed by regular people like you, who won't sit back while the rich strip this country for parts. We need you to help us stay on the road to push back against the misinformation machine. Click the link in the description or head over to unfuckamericatour.com to donate, because nobody else is coming to fix this mess.
Welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Friday. Thanks for joining us, everybody. The Jolly Good Ginger is going to be joining us here in a little bit, so you're going to want to stay tuned for that. So as you know, Miss Machado gave her Nobel Peace Prize award to Donald Trump, even though we all know that he'll never be the recipient of the award, technically speaking. But the reason why she's doing that is I think it's pretty clear. She wants to be the president of Venezuela. But, you know, our friend Jimmy Kimmel offered Donald Trump a bunch of trophies of his own if he pulls people out of Minneapolis. And I think this is, you know, listen, it's a Friday. We talk about a lot of serious topics on this show. But I actually tend to think that this is an extremely funny moment that maybe we could laugh at a little bit, but it goes to show you of how ridiculous our president is. Have a listen to this.
The Daytime Emmy I won for Best Game Show Host in 1999. That could be yours. Or perhaps you would prefer my Clio Award for my work selling crap to people, or my Webby Award, the most prestigious award the internet can give, or my Writers Guild Award. This is a good one. You can see it looks nice. Or best of all, I'm willing to hand over my 2015 Soul Train Award for White Person of the Year. You do this. The choice is yours. I will personally deliver any or either all of these to the Oval Office in exchange for leaving the people of Minneapolis alone.
I actually think that's hilarious. Jimmy Kimmel's great. But it goes to show you about how ridiculous Donald Trump is with his ego and how soft he is. And it's funny and it's easy to make fun of somebody like Donald Trump for this, but at the same time, there's some truth to this also, and it goes to show you how dangerous Donald Trump is to this nation. And speaking of danger, why don't we go to the DHS spokesperson, Miss McLaughlin? Because as I mentioned earlier in this show, there are people, ICE agents in this country, that are going up to random people and asking them for their paperwork, asking them for ID, completely against the law. As I've said before, and I say again, you have to have reasonable or articulable suspicion that somebody has committed a crime before you ask them for their papers or even ask them for their ID. That goes for anybody in this country. And the excuse that McLaughlin made on CNN earlier today is both laughable and pathetic. Listen to this.
Told reporters yesterday that ICE may ask people to, quote, validate their identity when asked about Americans carrying proof of citizenship. Can you clarify what exactly that means? Do American citizens, as of now, need to carry their passports or other immigration documents to show that they're citizens?
I am so glad you asked this question because I think that there's a lot of confusion there about this. We have incredibly targeted immigration enforcement operations. So what's happening there is reasonable suspicion. If somebody is in the vicinity of this operation, of this target, then they could be asked for their identification. We've been vindicated by the Supreme Court, September of 2025. You all saw a case out of Los Angeles where they said we can use a reasonable suspicion. I think I've seen a lot on this network and other places where they're talking about this is racially based. Absolutely not. Racial animus is no place in DHS and is, of course, not used. We're using what is protected under the Fourth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution.
All right, let's dive a little bit deeper into that.
Absolutely.
I want to play this video of a recent incident in Minnesota that has received attention.
Do you have an ID on you, ma'am?
I don't need an ID to walk around in my city. This is my city.
Okay, do you have some ID then, please?
I don't need an
If
ID.
not, we're going to put you in the vehicle and we're going to ID you, please.
I am your citizen. I don't need to carry around an ID in my home.
Well,
this is my home.
Where were you born?
This is my home.
Where were you born?
Minneapolis is my home.
So that video was filmed by a woman who, as you heard, said she is a U.S. citizen. Why exactly was she stopped? Was there reasonable suspicion, which is a legal bar, as you noted, that a crime was committed in that situation? And why was he asking her, where are you born? Like, what was he basing that on?
Sure. So either this is, and I haven't seen this video before, so there could be two circumstances here. Either this is a targeted operation and she's around the vicinity of it, around the target. There's reasonable suspicion because there might be a descriptor, or she could be 5'6" and they're looking for somebody who's 5'6". That could be part of it. They're looking for somebody. That could be part of it. The other piece of it is it could be, I don't know if she was obstructing law enforcement, if she was assaulting law enforcement prior to this, but they either had those Title VIII authorities under the U.S. Code 1357 or they had that reasonable suspicion.
Absolute lie. Absolute lie. Just because you're looking for somebody that's 5'6" and you see somebody on the street that's 5'6" doesn't mean you have to ask for their paperwork and or ID. That's not reasonable or articulable suspicion. I'm sorry, that's not. And that woman has a lawsuit. But keep in mind that this is the DHS spokesperson. If she's saying these things, then everybody within ICE is probably saying these things. And they think they have the legal right to go up to anybody and ask them for ID or their paperwork or where they're from? Is that the kind of country that you want to live in? That's exactly what Joe Rogan was talking about the other day when he called it Gestapo. That's exactly what this is. Let me be very clear once again. It is illegal for anybody in law enforcement to demand an ID or paperwork unless you have reasonable or articulable suspicion that that person has committed a crime or you believe they've committed a crime. You can't just go up to random people and ask them and demand ID or where they are from. They're also breaking into homes without search warrants. We saw video of that the other day, where they're looking for a man that is allegedly an undocumented immigrant, and they believe he's in a home that he doesn't own. They have no warrant. They barge down the door. Yeah, they find the man, but you have to have a warrant to go into somebody else's home to make an arrest in a situation like that. They didn't have a warrant. Again, completely against proper protocol, completely against the law. But MAGA don't seem to have any problem with that. They'll cite the Constitution. They'll cite all your rights. Those ICE agents are breaking your Fourth Amendment rights every single day when they go up to you randomly with no suspicion that you've committed a crime, maybe because of your accent or the color of your skin, asking you if you are a citizen. That is against the law. You can't just barge down a door like that without a warrant when you're trying to make an arrest. That is against the law. And then Wolf Blitzer cites Kristi Noem, who called this 37-year-old mother, who I believe was murdered, a domestic terrorist just an hour after the shooting, and listen to McLaughlin try to defend it.
Domestic terrorism.
When she called this 37-year-old mother of three who was driving that car a domestic terrorist, that really was outrageous.
We say it was an act of domestic terrorism. In no way is that outrageous. What we saw on the ground there, she had been stalking and harassing law enforcement throughout the morning, and then she went on to use her car as a deadly weapon. That's
she was
not
driving by after dropping off her little 6-year-old boy
That's
at
just
school.
simply not true. I have the facts on the ground. I mean, if you look at it, for the hours
have more
before,
information you can release to give the public a better understanding.
if I can give you the facts of what happened that morning at 9:30 a.m. Central Time, this is where that incident occurred in Minneapolis. This individual, for hours before, had been stalking and harassing law enforcement, impeding operations. At the time of that incident, our law enforcement approached this individual's vehicle as she was blocking in our law enforcement. That is a federal crime. They asked her to get out of the car, to stop obstructing law enforcement. You saw from the video that her partner had been walking around harassing the law enforcement officer. Our officer was in front of her. She gunned the vehicle, and that's when things turn dangerous and deadly. If you don't listen to lawful commands of federal law enforcement, if you use your vehicle as a weapon, that is absolutely an act of domestic terrorism.
Hold on really quick. I mean, you just mentioned he stepped in front of the vehicle, and there is no confirmation. I mean, there have been different analysis of this vehicle, and of course we would love more facts to fill in the picture, but she's also turning the wheel, and he did step in front of the vehicle as part of this. Is that part of the training for ICE agents during an encounter with the vehicle?
When you're trying to be, when they're being blocked, when you're being impeded, when your
cars were going by.
Cars were being, you're not seeing the full video. There are cars behind this individual that could not get through. So again, we're talking about manipulative editing and only showing, we're only showing part of the, Pamela, there's a very
welcome any more evidence
if
that
I
you
could
can
say
release
one
to the
thing,
public.
there's a very simple solution here. Tim Walz and Mayor Fry should let us into their jails. Those 1,400 individuals, those criminal illegal aliens who have already had their due process, let us in those jails. Let us take those murderers, those rapists, those child pedophiles out. That would simply solve the solution. Work with state and local law enforcement. That is what we're asking.
Notice how she doesn't answer the question when she's asked, why was the officer in front of the vehicle? The officer's not supposed to be in front of the vehicle. And notice the anchor says, if you have any more evidence you'd like to release to the public, we're welcome to listen to it and to see it. She doesn't have any more evidence. All we have are the videos. What McLaughlin just did was lie. Let me explain to you all the lies real quickly, if I may. Number one, Miss Good had just dropped off her 7-year-old son at school. How do we know this? Because there's evidence of it, because the school has confirmed. So Miss Good was not harassing officers or doing the things that McLaughlin was claiming she was doing for hours. That is a blatant lie, and that's proved by facts. So that's lie number one. Lie number two, Miss Good's wife was not breaking the law. You are allowed to cell phone video, and you might not like the language or what the wife was saying, but that was completely within her rights to do so, and she wasn't breaking the law. Number three, if you're making the case that Miss Good was blocking traffic, then why was she allowing cars to pass through and waving cars by? The cars were already able to go by, and they weren't completely blocked. That's number three. Number four, even if Miss Good was breaking the law and interfering in investigation, that does not give any officer the right to use deadly force. That's number four. Number five, and the question that was asked by the CNN anchor, that was not answered by this pathetic excuse for a human being, McLaughlin, this DHS spokesperson. Where in your training does it say you should take out your phone, use one of your hands to record on your cell phone, walk around the vehicle from the back of the vehicle to the front of the vehicle, which is against every single protocol? Where does it say that instead of de-escalation and trying to get her out of the vehicle, you go up to the vehicle, you try to pull on the door, and you say, get the F out? Where does it say that you're supposed to shoot your weapon into a vehicle when you're on the side of the vehicle as she's attempting to drive away? Where does it say, after an officer-involved shooting, that you're not even supposed to check the person's pulse? You're not even supposed to do any sort of life-saving techniques? Yes, that's what Ross did, or lack thereof, what he didn't do. He didn't check her pulse. He just walked over very casually to see what the situation was, didn't check her pulse, didn't do anything. Then he walked casually back to his unmarked vehicle and breaks more major protocol. After an officer-involved shooting, you're not supposed to leave the scene. The weapon is supposed to still be there, and you are supposed to be there. That is also against protocol. And if there was internal bleeding, which there wasn't, it's a blatant lie. But even if there was, which there wasn't, why didn't he remain on scene and ask for medical attention? No, he didn't. He broke multiple protocols. That is why I believe the Good family is going to get a settlement eventually, but it won't bring Miss Good back, and make no mistake about it, Jonathan Ross belongs behind bars. I believe he is a murderer. And you could look at every single camera angle. Was he struck? First of all, he's on his feet the entire time. He never drops his cell phone in one hand, and he was barely grazed by the vehicle. And you could see Miss Good, who was turning her vehicle to the right almost exponentially. Everything that these two officers did, especially the officer that pulled the trigger, were against proper training and proper protocol, hence why it is a murder. And this guy has already received millions of dollars in donations. Yes, that's right. Millions of dollars in donations, because under Donald Trump's America, under ICE, if you murder somebody, you can become a millionaire, and the Trump administration will protect you. It's sick. It's disgusting. And I am so angry, and you should be too. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of the excuses that people make on the MAGA right. I've had it. And I am not condoning any violence in any way, shape, or form. I am not condoning any violence. I want people to peacefully protest. I don't think following an ICE vehicle is a very intelligent thing to do. In fact, I think it's quite dangerous. I don't think you should be doing it. You have the right to do it. I don't think you should be. You have the right to peacefully protest. You have the right to raise your voice and yell. You have a right to be there with signs. You have a right. It's called freedom of speech. You have the freedom to protest, but please do it peacefully. I don't want more people hurt. I don't want more people to lose their lives. I don't want you to give some of these ill-informed and uneducated and not properly trained ICE officers the opportunity to do something very bad and harm you. I don't want that to happen. Now, I don't know if Donald Trump is going to implement the Insurrection Act. I hope not. But here's what I do know for sure. This is only going to get worse. It's not going to get better. And that's why this is a very scary situation. And while all this is going on, Donald Trump is on a 4-day Mar-a-Lago vacation. He took a half day at the White House today, but before he left, he seemed to be in a little bit of a rush. But before he left, he was coddled by members of Donald Trump's administration like Rollins and Dr. Oz. We'll play that all for you. And then Donald Trump spoke before he got on his helicopter and then headed to Mar-a-Lago. But here's what Dr. Oz had to say about Donald Trump and what he's doing with these over-the-counter prices for drugs. Have a listen to this.
As an aside, by the way, we've talked about the most favored nation drug pricing. One of the first companies and areas we used most favored nation drug pricing is fertility drugs. That's why we're going to have so many Trump babies, because we've dropped dramatically the most expensive part of the fertility space. And so Americans no longer will pay so many times more, in that case it was 10 times more, for the same fertility drugs that they're available for moms who want to get pregnant in Europe.
So first of all, he uses the term Trump babies, which is beyond sick and despicable. And I'm just rolling my eyes when I hear Dr. Oz talk, because he's a complete buffoon. At the same time, Rollins, listen to what Rollins had to say. You want to talk about Trump mushroom gobbling at its finest? Listen to Rollins.
Seconds. How about 30 seconds, sir? As a small town kid from Glen Rose, Texas, population 1,200, where I grew up, what you are doing today changes everything. And on behalf of our farmers and our ranchers in rural America, it is a new day, and we're so grateful. The final thing I'll say is I think about Abraham Lincoln, who also sat in this room, and I think about other presidents throughout American history. And you think about how the fundamental course of American history has changed in certain pivot points throughout history. I think about you as the peace president. 8 wars solved, more coming. I think about you as the security president, a border that is secure for the first time and more than any time in American history. I think about you as the prosperity president. We talk about, Kevin, wages going up.
We'll give her more than 1 minute. In fact,
I know, I'm almost done.
she can speak as long as she wants.
I'm almost done. The prosperity president and what's happening. Think about you as the affordability president. Everything is coming down. Inflation is coming down. The cost of groceries is coming down. Fuel, housing, etc. And sir, today, in the last 2 weeks, you will go down in history as the greatest president for the health of this country. in history. Think about our new dietary guidelines from Bobby Kennedy and I, but with your leadership, putting real food back in the middle of our health care conversation. Whole milk for healthy kids with those dairy farmers 2 days ago. We were in Pennsylvania talking about it yesterday. And today, putting the patient and the doctor back in charge of health care with great leaders like Governor Pillen. God bless you, your leadership, and all of our leaders. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much.
The Trump mushroom gobbling is what they do in these circle jerk type of events. Just absolutely despicable and absolutely disgusting. All right, so I've been wanting to talk to this guy for a very, very long time. I have so much respect, not just for his service to this country, but for his political commentary. And obviously, he's been in Minneapolis this week, and I think his voice is, we need people like the Jolly Good Ginger more now than ever. So it is certainly my pleasure for the first time on this show to introduce him joining us, the Jolly Good Ginger himself, Mr. Jolly.
What's up, brother?
What's
up,
going on,
brother?
man?
Sorry for being late. A lot of moving pieces out here in Minneapolis. Just left a press briefing that was being headed up by House Democrats that flew out here to talk to both witnesses of what ICE is doing, as well as witnesses that had been kidnapped and held hostage by ICE. I don't use the word detained. I don't use the word arrest.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad, no problem. I'm glad you're out there, and I love your commentary. What is it like been out there for the last, right? You've been out there for a week or so. How dangerous is it out there? And do you feel like the temperature is rising and it's getting worse by the day?
You know, you're right. I've been here a week. And I will start off answering that question with this small anecdote. I got here Sunday, I don't remember, sometime Sunday evening. It was a little bit after dark. And I came to the hotel and I dropped my bags and I went straight to the Whipple Federal Building because that's where they're holding their hostages after they kidnap them. And there's been a continual presence of protesters out there. So I go to the Whipple Federal Building and the protesters are on this side of the street and the Whipple Federal Building on this side of the street. And I was there no more than 30 minutes, possibly 20. And ICE thugs came out in a skirmish line, crossed the street, shot us with non-lethals, hit people with pepper mace, point blank range, threw a whole bunch of tear gas on us. And I think it's very important for me to tell you why they did that, because we were standing there. So there's this idea that maybe we're getting pepper sprayed or tear gassed or shot with non-lethals because we're doing something to provoke it. That's just not the case. They came across the loudspeaker in one of the DHS vehicles and said, the federal building is now closed, you must disperse, which of course is not true. That's not how the Constitution works. You can practice your First Amendment rights even after federal building is closed. And we're not even on federal building property anyway. So they came and lit us up, and that pretty much set the tone for this whole week.
You know, Jolly, and you're somebody that served this country honorably. You risked your life for this country. I know you don't like to be called a hero, even though I think you are, but you risked your life. You risked everything. How does it make you feel knowing that you risked your life so that these peaceful protesters could be out there and they can yell, they can blow their whistles, they have the right to do that, and then you see what happened to you and these other protesters? I mean, how does that make you feel?
It's enraging. I'm a strong advocate of the First Amendment. I mean, I was made to believe that from my childhood, right? The First Amendment's important. Freedom of assembly, freedom of press, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, right? You have these freedoms. And then when I did raise my right hand and swear an oath to the Constitution, I was told that's what I was defending amongst the many other rights that we have in the Constitution. That's what we're defending. And I'm flat out being attacked for expressing my First Amendment right. And I tell you something I haven't even put on the internet yet because it just happened. Greg Bovino and his goons are over at the Whipple Federal Building right now. I was not there because I was at the press briefing, but somebody called me on the phone as soon as it happened. And now ICE agents are writing on cardboard and putting it in the windows of the vehicles facing at the protesters, and and listen to what they wrote. Anyway, it's pissing me off thinking about it. But they wrote, "Say her name, Laken Riley," towards the protesters. So now they're antagonizing the protesters. And then Greg Bovino and his goons crossed the street in their skirmish line like they've been doing all week to the protesters, which usually means you're about to get gassed and lit up with non-lethal rounds. I've got, welts all down my leg where I've been shot with non-lethal rounds this week so many times. But they crossed the street, but instead of gassing them and instead of shooting with non-lethal, they literally talked trash to them. Literally. They were just trash talking the protesters.
You're supposed to de-escalate. You're taught and you're trained in law enforcement. You know this, that you're supposed to be. That's the opposite. You said it yourself. The real agitators, from what you're describing to me, are these ICE agents. They're the ones that are agitating.
That is absolutely correct. Even during the press briefing today, one of the news outlets, I didn't catch which one, was, as they're asking the representatives questions during the gaggle, one of the news outlets said, what would your, to Representative Ilhan Omar, they said, what would be your message to these protesters that are throwing rocks and throwing things at the ICE agents? And I was biting my tongue, because again, you're making the protesters sound like the agitators when it is ICE. But, Representative Omar's answer was a thing of beauty. I plan on posting it. She said, she basically just started listing everything ICE agents are doing that is unconstitutional, illegal, and it's what's making people enraged. And she said, if you want to de-escalate the situation, get ICE out of Minneapolis.
Yeah. I mean, I tend to agree with that. If you're just joining us, the Jolly Good Ginger, he's out there in Minneapolis just doing such great work. Jolly, this is what I just don't understand a lot of things, including the video of Miss Good, in my personal opinion, I think you agree with me, being murdered. And that you have MAGA saying that he had internal bleeding, two unnamed sources, by the way, which is absurd in itself. And then there's literally pictures of him moving stuff around in boxes in front of his home the next day. If anything, he was barely grazed by the vehicle. Like, I don't understand how anybody could watch those videos and his cell phone video, Mr. Ross, and say that was self-defense. Jolly, help me understand. I just don't understand. You talk to these people a lot more than I do. How can they defend this?
So this was an open book test for America. A good friend of mine, Francesca, made a video saying that the other day. There was these white women that made this video saying that their husbands, the way their husbands are responding to the Renee Good killing, is scaring them and shocking them, and because their husbands are saying, saying what you're saying, self-defense. You should have moved. You got to comply. And the women are just like, what? That's not. I watched the video. And Francesca said, how did your husbands react when the police killed unarmed black men? Because I fear this was an open book test. And that so succinctly explains how they're able, to answer your question, to explain away this as self-defense, because they've already been explaining away extrajudicial killings at the hands of the police forever. What we've allowed to happen to the black and brown community is happening to everybody. What we've allowed to happen in Gaza is happening in America. What we're allowing Trump to get away with in Venezuela is he's going to get away with in America. We have to recognize what the words of Dr. King so many years ago, and injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
Yeah, I agree. So Jolly, here we're at right now. Let's talk about where we're at now, where it seems like things are not getting any better. They're getting worse. Things are escalating. And now Trump is being asked to implement the Insurrection Act. Did you ever believe in your lifetime, because I didn't, that we would be going through something like this? It's mesmerizing to me. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think the Insurrection Act will be implemented, and then what happens from there?
So, first of all, it's not a surprise to me that he said that this time, because he said it so many times before. Prior to Trump's presidency, did I ever think I would see this in my lifetime? No, I also thought I would never see January 6, 2021 in my lifetime. There's been a lot of things that has happened under the Trump regime that I didn't think I would see in my lifetime. As far as the Insurrection Act goes, I cannot put into words how unsurprised I was to hear it happen. But I think and this is very important, I think part of the reason that I had such little shock when I saw his Timu tweet about it was watching what ICE is doing out here in Minneapolis. It's already been so unruly and so illegal and so violent what they're doing. I can't stress to people enough how ICE is operating out here. They're operating outside the confines of any law enforcement structure that we have had established prior to now. And the best way I've found to explain this to people, and it might sound like I'm trying to be funny, but I'm being so serious. The way ICE is operating here is they're operating by a set of laws that they imagine. And if you've ever argued with a MAGA supporter, we all have. We've all debated. Yeah, right, exactly. We've all debated them. We've all seen the debates with them. Even if you haven't debated them, you've seen the debates with them. We know how they think. And they say things that, are just untrue. Like well, you can't get in the way of a federal law enforcement officer. Yeah, you can. Like you can. Obstruction has a very specific definition by the law. It's not just anything you think is obstruction. Or you'll hear MAGA say, well, you just can't be here illegally. You don't even know what that means. You don't even know what illegally means, right? And so we hear this from MAGA, and anyone who reads a book or is educated can debunk what they're saying. Here's the problem. ICE is operating under the law according to MAGA. So those things you hear MAGA say, ICE believes them to be true. And the other problem is the government, from the president down, also believes them to be true. So they are acting as if these things you hear MAGA say is actually true. That if you're here illegally, then that's justification to come tear gas the entire neighborhood, beat up peaceful protesters, throw flashbangs into a vehicle with 6-month-old in it, release tear gas in the vehicle and hospitalize the 6-month-old, shoot a guy in the leg through his door, because you're here illegally, quote unquote, and if you don't like what we're doing, you're impeding a federal operation. These are only laws and rules in a freaking Hollywood movie.
Right.
These are not laws. These are not laws and rules in the real world we live in. There's jurisprudence, and I mean decades of jurisprudence from the Supreme Court that clearly defines the things that they are doing is against the Constitution.
And help me out here, Jolly, because to me, this is clear night and day, and everything you mentioned is true. They're barging down doors without warrants. Everything you said is true. What about going up to random people that are brown people or people with accents and asking them for ID and asking them, are you from the United States? Are you legal? And obviously, we know you have to have reasonable or articulable suspicion that they've committed a crime. And the excuse the Trump administration is making is, well, they were in the vicinity of an investigation. So what? That doesn't mean that they committed a crime. Like, can you speak to that? And the videos that I've seen, have you seen ICE agents in the week you've been there just randomly going up to people asking them for identification and papers?
No, I haven't seen them do it in person. I've seen the videos of them doing it. I've talked to people that they've done it to. I haven't seen them because if I had, I would have gotten their face and cussed them out and ruined their little investigation. And I use the word investigation very loose and liberally here. But, we are at the show me your papers part of the puzzle between what was a semi-democratic America and 1930s Germany. This is the Fourth Reich. This is not hyperbole. This is not, I think that because of all the political polarization over the last 25, 30, 40 years that and the use of so much hyperbole in that political polarization, I think that people don't take these words seriously. They think it's more hyperbole. They think it's more just political theater to use the words like fascism and Nazi and the other word escapes my mind. I apologize. But this is not hyperbole. This is not political theater. This is really what we're doing. If you can walk up to a person, and by the way, I'm sure you all seen the video. They just detained a U.S. citizen because he couldn't provide them papers.
Right. I did. Yep.
And that alone should rattle you. And this is what I say, and not to get on the soapbox here, but I've been saying this all week, and I don't want to miss the opportunity to say it now. I have been under immense personal pressure. Like I put this pressure on myself to find a way to put into a video, to put into words, to do something with my time here to show the American public just how bad it is. And I fear I can't. I don't, you see the videos. but I don't think you see the videos. You hear what's happening, but I'm not thinking you're hearing what's happening. This isn't just tales. This isn't people spinning it. That's another thing too. We've allowed the police to brutalize the black and brown community for so long that America has a well-practiced, well-oiled machine of misinformation where they spin the narrative, and you feel like when people like me on the left talk, we're just making that up. What you just said, Brian, is factually what they're doing. Mm-hmm. This isn't a narrative. This isn't something we're making up. They are walking up to people. These ICE thugs, they don't have any training. How do you identify an illegal immigrant? You don't. There's no way to have reasonable articulable suspicion, because suspicion of what? Being here illegally? Right. That's then everybody. Then you have to have your papers. Yep. This is not a narrative. This is not spinning it. This is what's happening. And if you're listening to this, you better be terrified.
Yeah, I certainly am. I completely agree. And that's a good point. How can you have reasonable or articulable suspicion that someone is undocumented? What, you're going to have to racially profile them, and that's exactly what they're doing. Yep. And think, I want to ask you about these right-wing grifters, because there's plenty of them out there as well. They go to these protests in Portland. You've been there. Minneapolis, the Nick Sorters of the world, who go out in front of Tim Walz's home screaming out retard. The Nick Shirleys of the world, who knock on private businesses, and because they won't let them into a child care facility and record children, somehow there must be fraud. I'm wondering, you've run into these people, as have I, the Cam Higbees of the world and others. Do they say anything to you? Do you say anything to them? And what would be your message to these right-wing grifters? At least that's what I call them.
Well, Can you hear me?
Yes, go right ahead.
Hang on. Yeah, I'm on. Hang on. What about now?
Yep, you're good.
I can't hear you. Let me leave and come back. I should put my phone on Do Not Disturb before I come back. I apologize.
Yep, no problem. Calling me. No problem. We'll get Jolly back on the line here in just momentarily in a few moments. And by the way, if you're just joining us, he is Jolly Good Ginger. He is a veteran. He is a political commentator. He's been out there in Minneapolis. He goes on the front lines. He did that not only as a soldier, but he does that now. That is what I would call a true hero. My last question to him was about some of these right-wing grifters. I love what Jolly does. I really do. I just think he's an incredible person. And we need more voices like him. And then we see these right-wing grifters out there, like the Nick Sorters, as I mentioned, the Cam Higbees and those kinds of people, and the Nick Shirleys and the copycatters of him. And I just think a lot of these people, maybe not every single one of them, but a lot of them are very despicable people, and they only care about money. They certainly don't care about fraud. They certainly don't care about immigration that like they claim they do. They don't care about Americans and their first, second, third, fourth, Fifth Amendment rights. They don't care about it at all. And I think it's really sad. I think we have Jolly back on the line with us. Jolly, can you hear me?
Yes. It's really funny. I have like 3 phones, and one phone I use for filming content, and another one I use kind of to film content with. And then I have one that's my personal phone.
Yep.
And whenever I'm doing like a show like yours or anything, I use one of my phones when I'm filming content, because I don't really get phone calls on that phone.
Yep.
But sometimes I do. I just got a phone call on this phone.
That's okay. No worries, my friend.
Nobody ever calls, for some reason, knocked the sound out.
Oh, that's all right. No,
anyway, to answer your question, yeah, I see. I mean, listen, I knew who Cam Higbee was well before the internet learned who he was. I had my first run-in with him back in like 2020 following the shooting of Jacob Blake. Cam Higbee's always been a right-wing bootlicking, disingenuous, Nazi. He's always been that. He is trying super hard to be relevant on his side of the fence, but he has nothing to offer. He's not exciting. He doesn't have a unique take on things. He thinks he's a debater. He's not. He's horrible at it. But whenever these guys come out to places where I am, because they are grifters, as you pointed out, they always come up to me. They come directly to me with their camera on, because they want to use me for content, because they're just grifters.
Right.
Of course, I'm unwelcoming to them. I'll use that word. And they don't stay long. And they always play victim with me, because I get in their face. I become aggressive in stance.
Good. You should.
Right. I want to be clear. I don't put my hands on them. Now if I'm ever required to defend myself, I will. But I make them as uncomfortable as possible. I call them names. I don't.
Good.
Well, Jolly, answer this question. Jolly, answer this question. No, I'm not. You're here in bad faith. But then what I see them do is go around to the rest of the people, wherever they are, whatever protest, rally, or event that we're at. And of course, they're just there to ask bad faith questions. That's all they're there to do, and spin the propaganda on the right. And that's the fundamental difference between the right and left. You know, most, obviously, because you can't make a blanket statement, but most people on the left that you see out of these events, like myself, who have a platform or content creators, whatever, are there to document what's happening and tell you the unfiltered version of what happened, because legacy media is not going to do that. And so my content, as it were, is what's happening in front of me, whereas their content is talking to us. That there's a little nuance there that once you understand it, whoa, now that I understand this nuance, it really becomes more clear. Why am I your content versus this your content, right?
Exactly. It's such a good point that you made. I have to ask you this too, as someone yourself who served, who's a hero. How can you make? How could you even come with an excuse? I guess I can't even figure it out. How anyone who serves this country like you could support Donald Trump, a 3-time draft dodging coward, like who calls people like you suckers and losers. You heard the comments he made about John McCain, which I thought should have been disqualifying for president way back when he was running, way back then. How can people who served support this man? Jolly, I don't get it.
So every leftist veteran I know has the same take that you just said. How the hell can you support him? But the truth is much simpler than people want to admit that it is, and that is because the truth is that they served white supremacy first, and we have to never forget that Trump did not usher these people into America. Trump didn't usher the ideas into these people's heads. Trump did not usher the hate and bigotry that we're witnessing in real time right now. Trump did not usher any of this in. White supremacy ushered Trump in. And the faster, the sooner that people realize that, the quicker we can get to a realistic solution. Because I hear you. He does all the things you just listed, the egregious attacks on John McCain, disgusting ones, the suckers and losers phrase. There's a longer list. There was a veteran that came to him and said, I want to give you this Purple Heart because it was a veteran that supports Trump.
Yeah.
And Trump said, you know, I've always wanted one of these, but this was the better way to get it. It was during the DNC last year that he provided he gave a Presidential Medal of Freedom to one of his billionaire donors. During the presentation of that medal, he said, you know, many people compare this to the Medal of Honor. I think it's better than Medal of Honor because people that get the Medal of Honor usually get dire or messed up afterwards. I can make a long list of things that should piss off veterans.
Yeah.
But when you see veterans supporting Trump, it's because none of that pisses them off as much as black and brown people do.
Yeah.
None of that pisses them off as much as the Great Replacement theory does. None of that pisses them off as much as their white mediocrity does. None of that pisses them off as much as their white fear that we will be replaced by somebody that will then do to them what they want to see done to the black and brown community, that will do to them what this country has been doing to the black and brown community. The Department of Homeland Security's social media page has been posting Nazi and white supremacist propaganda, and not dog whistles. I don't know if you've seen it, but just about 4 days ago, they posted a video, and it's a song called "We Will Have Our Home Back." It's a song that was written by the KKK post-Civil War and only used in white nationalist, white supremacist circles since its inception. And the Department of Homeland Security just posted on their website. Kristi Noem came out with the podium that said, "One of yours, all of ours." That's a Nazi saying. I mean, "One of ours, all of yours." That's a Nazi slogan that was used and created by Hitler. This is mask off, hood off, white supremacy, and that trumps, no pun intended, any service to the country. That trumps anything that Trump says about veterans, because their service to white supremacy is a much deeper loyalty.
Yep. In fact, the DHA secretary was asked about that earlier today on CNN, and she made excuses for it. Last question for you, Jolly, and I want to let you get back to work. You got important work that you're doing out there, and I obviously appreciate your time very much. Last question for you is this. We've seen all of the carnage that has taken place in Minneapolis on television. But for many of us, we aren't able to be there, right? We're not there in person. So can you explain to all of us personally what it has been like for you to be in Minneapolis over the course of the last week. And maybe TV doesn't always do us justice as to what is actually happening on the ground, even though we can see to an extent what's happening, right? We saw what happened to Miss Good. But can you explain to my listeners what it's like for you to actually be there this past week and how serious this issue really is?
Sure, I'll do the best I can, because going back to my earlier statement, articulating this in a way that I think people can really grasp it has been the most difficult hurdle I've encountered. And I'm pretty good with words, and it's still, because it's one of those things. Listen, I've been to a lot of protests, I've been protesting long before I was on social media. I traveled the country during 2020, 2021, going to protests and rallies. I have a feel for protesting. You know, you kind of, when tensions are high and when it's escalating, you can feel it. And this is different. This is wildly different than anything I've ever encountered in any city. Even the other cities where I went and chased ICE in Chicago and DC, this is different. Ever since they murdered Renee Good, they have just escalated. And I think the best way that I can help your listeners understand this is this. I think the one thing that doesn't get properly communicated when you watch the videos of them tear gassing protesters, or you watch the videos of them throwing flashbang grenades at us, or shooting non-lethal rounds at us, or you hear about it. The one thing, the one little element that often gets lost in translation there is what led to that. And I think once you understand that, then you get a feeling of what it's like being there. What led to it every single time that I've witnessed it this week, what led to it was our mere presence. Now, because I think in some viewers' minds, when they see these videos, I wish those protesters would just stop throwing things at them or stop escalating or whatever they think led to the escalation from ICE. But the truth is, that's not the truth. During the in North Minneapolis 2 nights ago, after they shot the guy in the leg through the door, we were there. I was there, and ICE was 10 foot in front of me. They had a whole long line, and yeah, I was giving them hell. Right? I think some videos from that went viral or something.
Mm-hmm.
But you can see they're there, and I'm here, and we're 10 foot apart. And yeah, I'm telling you that's my uniform. Yeah, I'm telling you I served and you didn't, you fucking gravy seal. Yeah, I'm saying that. That's my First Amendment right to say that. And then if at some point the crowd grows, we're standing in the street, there's probably 100, 150 of us, 20 ICE agents. Nobody's throwing anything at them. Nobody's going past the line we're told we can't go past. They're standing there. We're standing there maybe 30 minutes. We're standing there. And then out of nowhere, without warning, 7 tear gas grenades into the crowd. There's children in the crowd, everything, by the way. And if people ask, why is there children there? Because you're in a residential neighborhood. I need you to understand, paint this picture. We're in a residential neighborhood. Children are getting woken up because flashbang grenades are going off in their neighborhood, and you just shot a guy. So there's children, women, men, everybody's outside. They throw 7, and I've been tear gassed many times, many protests. I've never seen this much tear gas. It was so thick, you could not see through it. I mean, it was that thick. And on top of the tear gas canisters, they threw flashbang. So we're standing there 1 minute, the next minute it's boom, boom, boom. And then there's tear gas everywhere. You can't see. It is total uncontrolled chaos. And then they advance forward, and then they start shooting us with their non-lethals.
Oh, and there's kids there.
Oh, kids, yeah.
Oh.
And you see just the crowd panicking in every direction, running.
And you weren't breaking the law. This is very important. You guys weren't breaking the law. You were just there protesting, right?
That is exactly right. And I did. I mean, honestly, to paint the picture with even a finer stroke here, most people weren't even there protesting. I want you to put yourself in your neighborhood. Close your eyes and imagine you're in your neighborhood. You hear a man get shot. You hear flashbang grenades go off. You're going to go outside and see what's going on.
Right.
Then you go outside and police, this is not police, but I'm just trying to paint a picture for everybody. Police put up a police tape around an area, and they have police on the perimeter of that tape, and they're doing something inside, but you can't see. You would assume an investigation. Somebody just got shot. People's going to stand around and look and see what's happening, right? And in this case, because it's ICE and everybody knows what the fuck ICE is doing, but what ICE is doing, there are people out there, residents saying, Get out of our neighborhood. Why are you here? There's children that live here.
Right.
But others, but the majority of people aren't even there protesting, Brian. And at some point, so I want to go back to the scenario where it's happening in your neighborhood, and you, like anybody else, all of us would go outside to see what's going on. Let's imagine you're just there looking what's going on. That's weird. What's happening to my neighbor over there? And then the police just tear gas you and shoot you with non-lethal and flashbang you while your kids are there. That's what happened.
It's like Nazi Germany. I mean, what you're describing to me in some instances, I'm ready to make those types of comparisons, Jolly. I just don't want people to be
You're
hurt.
not wrong.
I don't want people like you to be hurt. I don't want innocent people to be harmed. That's what I'm worried about. And it's going to keep happening. Jolly, I don't want to keep you from the work that you're doing. I just want you to know a lot of my listeners and people all over the country are very appreciative for you, not just for your service to this country as a hero, but for what you're doing on the ground and just documenting everything and your commentary and standing up and being on the right side of history. We need more people like you, Jolly. You're a very brave person. And
I appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you having me on. I appreciate you being a voice out here in this world where we need voices that speak up against fascism. And my closing thoughts on that is this: like, we can't be silent. I don't care where you are in the country. Speak up. Organize in your communities. The government's not going to save us. Your state leadership's not going to save us. Your city leadership's not going to save us. Only we are going to save us, unfortunately. Yep. We have to save us. And what you're seeing happening in Minneapolis is guaranteed to come to a city near you. Speak up.
I would love to see you on CNN. Before I go, sorry, Jolly, I would love to see you on CNN, Piers Morgan. Is that something that you would consider doing and doing some of those national interviews?
Yeah, I think most, I don't get invited to those shows mostly. I'll be dead honest with you, because I cuss a lot. And so, but I am actually able to articulate quite well when I'm not cussing. But I'm an angry guy, and but 100%. Well,
we got to make that happen. Jolly, thank you so much for your time. Let me let you go. Keep up the great work, my friend, and we'll talk soon. Thank you for the time.
All right, brother.
Appreciate that. All right, that's Jolly Good Ginger, everybody. We got to get Jolly on Piers Morgan. We got to get Jolly on CNN. We got to get him on those panels. He doesn't have to swear to make his point. I love that man. I just think not only is he a hero, but the work that he's doing on the ground there, such an important voice, and that's why he's so popular. To combat these right-wing grifters. And I love the man, and I appreciate him taking the time for joining us. Jolly Good Ginger. All right, last break of the show, and here is what we are going to do. We are going to take your calls. Your reaction to that interview, that was probably my favorite interview in a long time. I really enjoy it. He's a brilliant guy, a hero, and I love what he's doing. Your reaction to Jolly Good Ginger. We just did, I feel like it was at least a 30-minute interview with him, maybe even more, somewhere around that time. I want to get your reaction to that. Also want to get your reaction to, obviously, the news of the day, the fact that the Insurrection Act might be implemented. Gosh, there's so much to talk about. And the fact that I believe Jonathan Ross is a murderer who is being protected by the Trump administration. The number to call is 702-221-7283. Again, that number, if you'd like to be a part of the program, now's your chance to give us a buzz. 702-221-SAVE. Trump supporters, always welcome. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this in 90 seconds. It's Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Gina Yusufzai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and fees. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid.
right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Friday. We just did a interview with somebody that I certainly look up to, and I love his work. The Jolly Good Ginger just joined us for about a 30-minute interview or so. Really great getting into his head and being out there in Minneapolis and the work that he is doing. Please check him out on social media if you haven't already, because I think he's just awesome. And the phone lines are full right now. We're going to get to every call, or at least we're going to try to, at 702-221-7283. Let's start off with Herb. Let's get my blood boiling right from the get-go. Hello, Herb. What's going on?
Hey, Brian. I want to ask you a question based on your last guest. I want to give you a scenario, and I want to ask you what you would do. You were saying that people in the neighborhood heard flashbangs and they heard somebody had been shot, and they went outside to see what was going on with their kids. Would you take your kids outside if you heard that?
So that's not exactly what he said. What he did say is that there were people that were out there before the flashbangs and before the tear gas. If you actually listen to what he said, Herb, there were kids in the crowd. There were kids there. Would I put my kids in that situation as a parent? Well, no, I think that's a very dangerous situation, but that doesn't mean that there should be flashbangs and tear gas, okay, especially if you're not breaking the law. So the question, even though I answered your question, the question shouldn't be, why would you put your kids there to begin with? The real question should be, if people are not breaking the law, if people aren't doing anything wrong other than using your freedom of speech and your rights to do so, then why are they throwing tear gas out there, and why are there flashbangs? Oh, yeah, by the way, I've actually watched this video. They weren't breaking the law. They weren't doing anything wrong. And I'm wondering why you're not asking that question, yet you're asking, well, why would you bring your kids there to begin with? In this country, parents have the right to bring their kids to a protest, especially if they're not breaking the law, Herb. I think you know that. So would you agree with me, Herb? Even though I answered your question, I said, yeah, I wouldn't bring kids to these protests in Minneapolis because it is dangerous. Now answer my question. Are you okay with these ICE officers going up to random people and asking them for ID and asking them if they're born in this country? Are you okay with these ICE agents in Minneapolis not using search warrants, no warrants at all, barging down doors? Are you okay with some of these ICE agents, as you just heard from Jolly, using tear gas and rubber bullets for people that are not breaking the law? Herb, I would hope that we would agree that you're not okay with that kind of behavior.
Well, let me just answer it this way. You can't go by video. You weren't there. I wasn't there. We don't know all that took place prior to them shooting tear gas or rubber bullets. We don't know.
Was anybody arrested? Was anybody arrested? In that specific situation where somebody was shot through a door and was hit in the leg, by the way, we do know, but I'm just asking you to see if you know. Was anybody other than the person that was shot in the leg, who was obviously arrested, anybody that was outside that home where they did shoot the tear gas and stuff, was anybody arrested? Was anybody charged with a crime, Herb?
Brian, I don't know what the reports are.
If you don't know, Herb,
what I'm saying, wait, let me finish.
You're not answering. You're not answering.
No, I didn't interrupt you. Let me say something.
Okay, but Herb, you're not answering my question.
Saying, no, but Brian, let me just say this. We weren't there. We don't know all.
Herb, I'm asking you. Herb, you already said that. Herb, you already said that, and I did not interrupt you when you were speaking. I'm asking you a question, and the reason why I'm interrupting now is you're not answering. If you don't know the answer, then just say, Brian, I don't know the answer. Don't repeat yourself. I'll ask you one more time. In that specific situation where tear gas was used and other forms that were used, where there were some injuries, by the way, was anybody arrested for a crime in that situation other than the guy they shot through the door who was shot in the leg? If you don't know the answer, then tell me.
Okay, the other two guys that came out and attacked the ICE officer, they were arrested too. All three of them.
Herb, we are
right?
No, wrong. Herb, we are specifically talking about the situation where ICE officers shot through a door, shot a man in the leg, and then he was arrested. The situation that Jolly is talking about is a different situation than what you are talking about. There were no arrests made for people on the ground that were standing there outside his home, including children. The point that I was trying to get to, Herb, is you always want to put blame on others. By the way, in this situation, we're not breaking the law, but I noticed you don't put any blame on ICE. Let me ask you another question. When you saw Miss Good, who was shot in the face multiple times and killed, You think ICE officers were behaving properly there and going by proper protocol, Herb?
Let me answer it this way, and listen to me now. Let me answer it this way. He was a police officer.
He's an ICE officer, not a
may
police
not have
officer.
been in the the ICE officer. He may not have been in the proper position. However, he had to make a split-second decision, and he fired his weapon. That's a tough decision.
Where did he fire it?
Wait a minute. Let me finish. He had to make a split-second decision. He fired through the windshield the first bullet, and then of course he shot through the side window on the other two. However, I'm not going to criticize him one way or the other.
You're not going to criticize him.
I don't call him a murderer or anything like that.
All right, so you
I'm
mentioned.
going by the video.
All right, so let's go by the video. All right, Herb, hang on. Herb, hang on.
No.
Herb, hang on.
I'm not going to go through all that yourself, Brian.
Herb,
if you don't know what happened.
Actually, I do. Actually, I do. Then why isn't there an independent investigation, Herb? Why won't they work with local law enforcement, and why won't there be an independent investigation? Do you think Christy Noem knew what happened? Let's go by that, Herb. Do you think Christy Noem knew all the facts? Was there an investigation in an hour when she called her a domestic terrorist? Are you okay with that, Herb? Please answer the question.
No, I'm not.
Okay,
I'm not.
Okay, so let's start. Okay, so Herb, let's try to agree. Okay, let's try to agree. We obviously fundamentally disagree on what happened. Okay, don't you think, Herb, hear me out. Why shouldn't there be an independent investigation that both sides could agree upon?
I think there should be.
Okay, so why? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think there should be.
Okay, we agree. So why do you think the Trump administration doesn't want to do that?
I don't know. I can tell you.
Okay, well, here's my. Okay, so Herb, here's my theory. Okay, on why there won't be an independent investigation, because it's a cover-up, Herb. If they have nothing to hide, then let there be, where both sides could agree, an independent investigation. But Christy Noem, which you don't agree with, which I don't either, calling her a domestic terrorist. Now, Herb, can you please tell me in what?
Okay, well, let me ask you a question.
Well, wait, I was going to ask you. Okay, but Herb, I was going to ask you.
No, you've been asking me a question. Let me ask you a question.
I didn't ask you a question.
You don't want to answer my question,
Herb,
do you?
I will answer your questions. I will, and by the way, I have answered your questions, and I will allow you.
You answered one question. Let me ask you a question.
Herb,
you've asked me about 3 or 4.
All right, I'll tell you what. No, I haven't asked you 3 or 4. But Herb, I will allow you to ask me a question, and then you will allow me to ask a question in return. Is that fair?
Okay.
Go ahead. Ask your question.
My question is, why is it that ICE officers have gone into Louisiana, into Texas, and into Florida, arrested? In fact, they've arrested more in El Paso than in most other areas in the country. They've had no problems whatsoever. And the reason why is because they're not sanctuary cities, and police departments have worked with ICE to arrest. So these people, they don't have to go into the neighborhoods to go get these people.
So you're asking me.
They've been arresting them out of the jails.
So you're asking me. Okay,
Brian,
so if you're asking me, asking me a question, you have to give me the opportunity to answer your question and stop talking.
I'm just explaining what's happening.
I don't need your explanation on what's happening. I'm pretty sure I pretty much understand what's happening. I think the person that doesn't understand what's happening is you. Now I'm going to answer your question, which I think was, why are these issues not happening in other states and in other cities? First of all, there's about 5% of deployment of some of these ICE officers to a state like Texas. Let's start there. You named Texas. There are 10 times more undocumented immigrants right now in Texas than there would be in the entire state of Minnesota. But the reason why is because one is a red state and one is a blue state. So that's number one. It's about, hold on. You don't get to interrupt me when I answer. I'm still answering your question. Pot him down all the way because I don't want to hear his stupid voice. See, I let you ask the question. I'm answering the question. Whether you like the answer or not, it doesn't matter. Shut up and let me finish. And then I will ask my question. Now, that is one explanation. The other thing I will say is that while I can't recall an ICE agent in the street murdering somebody, in ICE custody just this year alone, there have been a number of people that have died while in ICE custody. And that didn't just happen in Minneapolis, okay? It's happened all over the country. So when you say, why is it that we haven't had any incidents anywhere else like this? I can tell you that a plethora of people that have been in ICE custody have died. And we don't have any explanations as to why. We have civil lawsuits. So to say that there hasn't been any major incidents in other states is also factually inaccurate. That is wrong. Okay? That is wrong. What Donald Trump and what Kristi Noem have done is they're trying to punish Democrats. They're trying to punish people that they don't like. They're trying to go after minorities. They're trying to go after people with dark skin, maybe even people that look like you. Now, I've answered your question. Now it's my turn to ask you a question because that was the verbal agreement that we had. Herb, can you please explain to me where it says in any involved training, whether it comes law enforcement, ICE officers, you name it, can you please explain to me where it says you should do a number of different things? Number one, walk behind a vehicle, walk around a vehicle, walk in front of the vehicle, de-escalation techniques, try to open up a door and say, get the F out without talking to that individual. Can you please tell me where it says that right after an officer-involved shooting, you look at the victim, I would call her a victim, you don't check her pulse, you don't use any life-saving techniques, and where does it say in officer-involved training, whether it be ICE or police officers, that you leave the scene of a police officer-involved shooting 30 seconds after it happens with the weapon? Now, those aren't opinions, those are pretty fair questions, but I just want to see, does it say that you're supposed to do any of those things, Herb?
Brian, did you put me down?
Herb, does it say any of those things? You're not.
Brian,
please answer the question.
Did you pod me down?
Answer the question. You're wasting my time. You're not potted down.
When you learn how to communicate, when you learn...
I'm asking you a question. Please answer the question. You said I answered yours. Now answer mine.
Pod me down. When you learn how to pod people down, I'll answer the question.
Okay, so Herb, that's an excuse, and he doesn't want to answer the question because Herb is a coward. By the way, Herb, the verbal agreement that we had was that you ask a question, which I allowed you to ask, and then I was answering it. The reason why I potted you down is because you weren't letting me finish answering the question, even though you didn't like the answer. Then I asked you a question, and because you're a coward, you didn't give me an answer, and you hung up the phone like the coward you are. I really hope that ICE agents, Herb, find you somewhere and ask you for ID and ask you if you're legal, and then we'll see if you're okay with that. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the show. Let's go to Scott. Scott on line 1 is next up on PTL. Hey, Scott, thanks for calling in. What's up?
Hey, how are you?
Good.
So Benjamin Franklin said you should have a revolution every 80 years. So 1776 to 1860, 1860 to 1940, 1945 to 2025. So I'm worried that we're beyond civility. You can't talk to these people. They want violence. They have guns, but they think that the other side doesn't have guns. So I don't know if talking anymore is going to do anything, but I mean, you know, I guess we should. I hope it doesn't.
Well, I'll say this.
Violence,
I'll say this.
It's already violent.
I'll say this. Talking to people like Herb doesn't get anybody anywhere. He's an absolute buffoon. I appreciate the call, my friend. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Joseph. Joseph is next up on PTL. Hi, Joseph.
Yeah, hey, Brian.
Hey.
All right. Here's my piece. Hearing the stories about Kristi Noem, stuff like saying lie after lie after lie, goes to show that this is what Trump and his regime wants. He wants to continue to make lies to the people, and also, not to mention, making World War II, bring World War II to home, just like how Hitler did to Germany and all that other stuff. And also, the way ICE is doing to those protesters goes to show that this is what Trump also wanted. I think he just wants to make Schindler's List look like a kid's show to me.
I mean, that certainly, I'm going to be honest with you. And I've said this week, and I haven't said these kinds of comments, Joe, until recently. And I appreciate the call, by the way. But the reality of the situation is that I believe there are similarities between Adolf Hitler, Nazi Germany, and what's going on in this country, particularly with ICE today. So I think you're absolutely right, Joe, and I really do appreciate your phone call. Let's go to Jay, 702-221-7283. Jay is next on PTL. Hey, Jay, what's going on?
Hey, Brian. I live in Minneapolis, and I don't really have a question, but I wanted to say that I'm so grateful that you had Jolly on, because up until this point, I was watching your show, and I felt nobody really had an idea of what's going on here.
Yeah.
This is an absolute attack on the city, and everybody is just enraged. Everybody is coming out to support their neighbors. When you drive around, you see ICE out signs posted everywhere, outside of people's doors, on telephone poles. This is really the front lines of democracy, and it is we the people against this authoritarian regime and the fascism that is perpetuated
Where do you
not
live?
just by the government.
Do you live in Minneapolis, by the way? How far are you from where this is happening, if you don't mind me asking?
I live about 8 minutes away from both George Floyd and Renee Good memorials.
Oh my, wow. So you're about 8 minutes away from where this is all going down. I don't even know where to begin with you, because this is right in your backyard. But I mean, I take it personally, and I live in Las Vegas, but I can't even imagine what you're going through there. I mean, is it fair characterization to say that it appears to me anyway that your city is being terrorized? It's being terrorized by ICE, right?
It absolutely is. And, one of the things that you said early on in the show is that you don't really support people going and observing ICE.
No, I didn't say that.
think that.
No, I didn't say that.
Okay,
Hold on. Let me be clear.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Let me be very clear. I have no problem with people observing ICE and doing it peacefully and peacefully protesters. You also have the right to follow ICE to an extent. I just want people to be smart and be careful, because this is a very dangerous situation. I don't want anybody to get hurt. You absolutely have the right to peacefully protest, and I wouldn't criticize you for doing that. But I also will say, if you're following an ICE officer and you're getting in an officer's face and screaming at them, it's dangerous, and you have to understand the risk that you're taking. I'm not saying you're breaking the law per se, and I'm not saying you shouldn't peacefully protest. In fact, I would implore people to peacefully protest, but I just want people to be careful and be smart. That's all.
I agree with that comment. I would also add that, considering the brutality of this attack, this city is so strong and so peaceful. Anywhere else, this would have escalated to violence day one. People are really uniting. We are organizing. There's still a lot more we could do.
Well, you know what? What you guys have gone through, let's be clear. We all know this. It was proven in a court of law that George Floyd was murdered. And you still have people on the far right, I would assume a lot of these people that call themselves ICE officers, that think that Derek Chauvin should be pardoned. Derek Chauvin is a convicted murderer. And yes, there were agitators. Yes, there were people that did some bad things. But I would still say that the overwhelming majority of people across the country that protested after George Floyd were not violent people and did not do violent things. There are agitators out there. You can't throw things at officers. Obviously, you get no destruction of property. And I know that the overwhelming majority of people there are not doing that. I know that.
Yeah.
And
that's very
trust
true.
Trust me, I know that. Okay. And by the way, these are the same people that called those on January 6th, so many of them who beat police officers, hostages, and patriots. Okay. The real patriots are people like you, people like Jolly Good Ginger, who are out there on the front lines, who are documenting everything, not these right-wing grifters out there like the Nick Sortors of the world, who are outside of Tim Waltz's home calling him a retard. Okay. These are really bad people. I just want people to be safe. These are, here's my worry, okay? And I think this is yours as well. You have a bunch of ICE agents out there, maybe not all of them, but a good portion of them, who are very new, who only have 47 hours of training, who are very stupid, who are ill-informed, who are Trump supporters, who get their jollies off, for lack of a better term, for deporting people and tackling brown people with accents. They enjoy it. Don't give them a reason. Don't give them an opportunity, and don't give them a reason to use force on you. That's what I'm worried about.
We are not. But to your point, and that's the last thing I want to say is, Jolly is completely spot on by saying that white supremacy is behind all of this, and there is really no other thing. The fact is, our country, and it's not just the city, and it's not just our government. Our entire country is fractured, and I don't really think that there's any redeeming for somebody whose fundamental views are based in white supremacy. We are divided.
So I completely agree with you. I agree with what Jolly said. Please be safe out there, my friend. I'm honored that, you call in and you listen to me and you're right there where it is. I want you to be safe. I want you to be careful, and do me a favor, please. Please call back on Monday if it's okay with you. If you have the time, please call back on Monday and give us an update on what's going on there. Does that sound good?
Yeah, absolutely. Keep up the great work and stay strong, Brian.
Thank you. You as well, my friend. Please be safe out there and look forward to hearing from you again soon. Please be safe. Love it that we have so many listeners all over the country, but particularly we've had a lot of people call in from Minneapolis, and I'm truly honored, and I care about you guys, and I don't want anybody getting hurt, and I'm very worried. 702-221-7283. One phone line open. Let's go to Myron. Myron is next up on PTL. Hey, Myron, what's going on?
Hi, Brian. Big fan.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm a crossing guard in a town in Massachusetts, and I almost get hit every once a week. And there's been 3 or 4 of us that have got hit by cars. I'm just wondering, should we have a gun so we can shoot people?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've also made this not to mock somebody who's a crossing guard, because you have an important job, but I feel like that, you need more training to be a crossing guard these days than you do an ICE officer. And number 2, and I'm sorry, by the way, that that's happened to you, but we've all seen the video. Worst case scenario, he's grazed by the vehicle. He wasn't injured.
Right.
He keeps his cell phone in his hand the entire time. And then he manages to fire his weapon twice on the side of the vehicle when there is no longer a threat. He walks casually to the scene of the crash, doesn't provide any medical aid, again, turns around, walks casually to his unmarked vehicle, doesn't appear like he's in any bit of pain. He's not walking gingerly, nothing like that, leaves the scene. If there's any imbecile out there that thinks that this man was injured or he had internal bleeding, then they have an IQ of about 20, and I really don't know what else to say.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't know what other people's eyes see, but I see what I see, and I don't know. It's crazy.
It's horrible.
I just wanted to bring that up.
Well, be safe, my friend. Be safe out there. And, these MAGA morons think that more weapons make us safer. Let me tell you something. They don't. We have, we're obsessed with weapons in this country, and I don't think more of them are the answer. Be safe out there, my friend, and I do appreciate you calling out there in Massachusetts. Go Celtics. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Carl. Carl is next up on PTL. What's up, Carl? Hey, Carl. What's up?
Hey, hi. Listen, Brian, your friend, your good friend, Herb, do you, give me your opinion, do you really think that he's brainwashed?
So Carl is referencing a guy named Herb who calls into this show, quite frankly, who's a Trump supporter. My opinion, based on years of this guy calling into my show, is this. I don't think Herb is a bad guy. I think he's very ill-informed and maybe not the brightest bulb in the world. I don't think he's a bad person. I think he, like many people who at one time voted for Donald Trump, they watch their Fox News, they watch their Newsmax, they're very ill-informed, they're brainwashed, and they're not capable of being logical, unfortunately. And
but do you think he has any brainwashing effect?
I mean, a lot of people were brainwashed during COVID, so I guess that's possible. But unfortunately, this is Donald Trump's base. People like Herb who listen to their right-wing media. They're brainwashed. They're not capable of having a conversation. They're also not capable. He says, I don't have the communication skills, and he's the one who hangs up the phone and refuses to answer my question. So
Carl, I have to disagree with you about Herb. I don't think he's brainwashed at all, because to be brainwashed, you have to have a full-size thinking brain.
That's true.
His brain is so small that it's more of a brain rinse.
That's too. I stand corrected, Carl. I stand corrected. I think you might be right on that. I appreciate the call. 702-221-SAVE is the number. Let's go to Larry calling all the way from Las Vegas. Love my locals. What's up, Larry? Larry, go ahead.
Oh, keep up the good work, Brian. Just fortunate that we have, freedom of the press, and I feel the word is getting out there. I was listening to Newsom today. Funny enough, he was on Fox, and he was giving what's going on in California and this and that. But the word is getting out there that this regime is it's just unacceptable. And I've lived in Spain. I've seen after the fascists left and the people that were affected by Franco. I've lived in Italy, and it's true. How they would really go after people demonstrating, or just the freedom of the press, the freedom of speech, and keep up the good work getting the word out there, because we got to vote these bums out. if this stuff was going down in Vegas, man, watch out, because this town is high energy, and I wouldn't want to
listen. I am not about to. I hope it doesn't, but let me tell you something. This could be coming to a city near you, and I am not.
Right.
I am not going to sit here and say, well, it's never going to come to Las Vegas, or it's never going to come to Connecticut, or this place or that place. This could be all over the country, and if he puts in the Insurrection Act into place. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't like to use the term civil war, but I don't know what's going to happen here. What I can tell you is this could be the beginning of the end, and this needs to stop now. We need to put an end to this now. Tim Walz and the mayor need to press charges on this officer. Arrest this guy. Find where he is and arrest him. And I don't care if there's 30 ICE officers that are trying to defend him. Arrest this guy and charge him with murder. This stuff needs to stop, and an example needs to be made of Jonathan Ross that this will not be tolerated no matter how many people that you have at ICE that are defending you. We are going to get you. We are going to arrest you, and we are going to hold you to the highest extent of the law on state charges, which means Donald Trump can do nothing about it. That's what these people need to do.
Good job.
Thank you,
Brian.
sir. All right.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you, my friend. Keep up calling in. I appreciate it. 702-221-SAVE is the number to call. Let's go to Eric. Eric is next on PTL. Hello, Eric.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. What's on your mind?
How you doing? I got two things to bring up. I have a daughter that's in Minnesota. She's actually in Austin, Minnesota, which is like Spam Town, USA.
Yep.
But ICE was at her school, college, Friday. And apparently they told them to get down on their knees, and they abided, and then they kicked them in the back and shoved their face in the cement. So that's one thing I wanted to bring up.
That's horrible.
Wait till you hear the next part. I have a buddy that never left the U.S., never even got a passport, and ICE did a sting at his work. And him and some other lady were, I think, leaving work, and he got detained. They put him in a prison up in northern Michigan. His wife called and did a missing persons report the next day because his car was at work. And then the next time she heard from him was when he was in Mexico, and he's still sitting there to this day.
That's what they're doing. There are stories like that all over the country where they are kidnapping people. And let me be very clear. Everybody has the right to due process. It doesn't matter whether you're undocumented or not. In the Constitution, it says any person, not any citizen. They are kidnapping these people. Some of these people are being sent to not even the countries where they originally were born. They're being sent to some of these people are sent to high maximum security prisons. It is despicable, and they are doing it every single day. And
I totally agree.
They're not being treated as human beings. They're being treated as animals, and this needs to stop. It has to stop, and we need to call it out every single day.
Right. One thing I find it funny that he had to hire 3 different attorneys, and right now he's just waiting on a hearing before he can come back. But the federal government settled out. They were the quickest one to settle out. And now obviously he hasn't been paid because there's different things that's going on. He's getting a certain amount per day for being there. But they're the ones that settled out quicker because they knew they screwed up.
Yeah, it's sick. It's unfortunate. I'm sorry to hear. I think the first story was from your daughter. I'm really sorry to hear that. And it's funny because there are some people on social media that make the claim, Brian, you're just trying to make money. It's my job to show up every day and talk about the news and share my opinions. But never have I said anything on the air, and never have I said to myself, here's what we're going to talk about today because it's going to make me money. I cover the news every day of the last 24 hours, and I speak my mind, and I tell the truth, and I share my opinions. Some people are going to agree. Some people are going to disagree. But I'll tell you what I don't do. I don't go to a bunch of businesses run by brown people and claim that there's fraud and stick my cameras in their face and then sell sweatshirts with the name of the company on a sweatshirt. I don't go in front of politicians' homes because I disagree with them and call them retard. That's what Nick Sortor and the people like Cam Higbee and others on the right and the Nick Shirleys of the world, because they're all despicable. They are doing it for the money. I have a job in radio and I have a job doing a show every day, and it's my job to tell the truth and to be opinionated and to share my thoughts. You could either choose to listen or you could choose not to listen, but it's not going to stop me from doing what I do every day. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Jason. Jason is next on PTL. What's up, Jason?
First of all, I want to say I salute you, Jolly Ginger, for your courage and everything that you spoke. And it gave me a recollection of, do you remember when I first started calling around 2023, the summer when the presidential debate started and they put in Kamala Harris and we was talking about 2025? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. 100% I do.
Okay. You also remember when I kept on telling you 1861? Do you remember me saying that a lot?
Yes, I do. You've called in and you've mentioned that a number of times. Yes.
So now I'm going to blow you away right now. The Insurrection Act is just a party favor. Trump is not that smart. You know it and I know it. He's not that smart. It's the people around him, Stephen Miller and the dude that made 2025. They're going to make sure. So with the Insurrection Act is going to be used because they're going to see how it flows. Then once they do that, they're going to create martial law. Trump already said it. He said it twice. I don't want elections. And he already said, I'm going to send all National Guards to take all election machines. So this is the Insurrection Act is just a show how America is going to act. And then once that's passed, then he's going for the martial law. Because once martial law happens, then he could stay president forever. Because there is no election because he created martial law. That's what's going to go down. And now, like I told you before, the white nationalists, all they want is a civil war. That's the real whole thing of it all. They're pleading and begging for a civil war. So that's what's going to go down.
I don't disagree with you. I hope that doesn't happen, but I tend to at least agree with you that white supremacy certainly has a lot to do with this. I don't think there's any question about that when you look at the people that they're targeting and what they look like. The white supremacy certainly has a lot to do with it. As I've said before, and I say again, it was never make America great again. It was always make America white again. And I appreciate your call, Jason. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Let's go to Chuck. Chuck is next up on PTL. Hey, Chuck, what's up? Chuck disconnected? Okay, let's go to Chris. Chris is next. Hello, Chris.
Hi.
Hi, Chris. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that there was a new reporting out of New York Times this morning, or it might be actually last night, that Renee was actually shot in the chest and the arm, and she was alive after the shooting for about 20 minutes while ICE denied her medical care.
Yeah, so I don't know. Here's what we know for sure. There was a physician that was on scene. They didn't allow that physician to work on Miss Good. It took about 15 minutes for EMS to get there while she was bleeding out. We know the officer that shot her and all the other ICE officers around there did not provide her any life-saving care at all as she was bleeding out. And I believe there may have been a chance that her life could have been saved. We don't know for sure, but you have to check her pulse at a minimum. Nobody even did that. The officer that shot her multiple times didn't even check her pulse. I'm wondering why MAGA won't talk about that. You want to talk about, oh, well, she used her car as a weapon, which obviously I disagree with. I think anybody that's not partisan that takes a look at that video could tell you that his life was not in danger, and that is a joke. But even with that being said, you're right. The officer casually walks back to his unmarked vehicle, says, call 911, and then leaves the scene against all protocols, but yet nobody provided her life-saving care as she bled to death. And yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah, and to build on what you were saying earlier about ICE killing people in their facilities all over the country, it actually came out that on January 3rd, a medical examiner ruled a death in a Texas facility was homicide. And there was a witness that said that they saw a guard strangle the person that was being detained or imprisoned.
Yeah, I did hear about that story. We know that there are dozens and dozens and dozens of different stories that we have heard where you have these ICE agents and these people that are in custody that are all dead behind bars, and we don't know how they died. We don't get any reports on what exactly happened. There's no autopsy. Listen, I think there are other murders by these ICE agents that are taking place all over the country. We just haven't heard about them. That's, in my personal opinion, that's what I think. But, you know, when you speak the truth, people don't want to hear the truth. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Julie. Julie is next up on PTL. Hello, Julie.
Brian?
Yes, hi, Julie.
Hey, Brian. I'm completely disgusted with what's happening. And I got news from one of the commenters that 47 countries were put on a travel ban, not a travel ban, a visa ban, Morocco included.
Yeah.
My friend lives in Morocco. He's trying to come, and it's going to make things harder for him to come. So he's not only making it harder here for people who are brown, but people across the ocean.
Yeah, listen, my biggest concern, well, I have a lot of concerns about what you're referring to here, but my biggest concern is that things are going to get worse before they get better. The Trump administration is not going to give in at all. I'm going to tell you what Tim Walz and the mayor need to do. They need to find out where Officer Ross is. They need to take him into custody and charge him with murder. And that might not be an easy thing to do. And the last thing we want in this country is a shootout between local law enforcement and ICE officers. You need to find where this man is, charge him on state charges of murder, and bring him into custody. And if ICE officers get in the way of that, then can't you use deadly force on them? I don't know. Tell me what the law is. If there is a warrant out for Mr. Ross's arrest, for example, second-degree murder, manslaughter, whatever, doesn't local law enforcement have the right to find him and bring him into custody? I think the answer is yes. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Brett. Brett is next on PTL. Hey, Brett, what's going on?
Hey, what's up, Brian? Great show today.
Thank
Love
you.
Ginger. Awesome. I was just out walking my dog and instantly got sick to my stomach. I'm like 2 blocks from Southern Boulevard of West Palm Beach, and there's a ton of people out there, and I asked a couple of people what's going on, and the big fat pedophiles having the name of the road changed to Trump Boulevard, and it's just never enough. Like the narcissism, and I don't know, Brian. I don't even know what to say, but I do agree with was it Jason was saying about the election and martial law. There's going to be no midterms. I'm convinced of that. I don't know what's going to happen.
There might not be.
All of that.
There might not be. It's crazy the times that we're living in today, but I'm not going to throw that off the table. Do you agree with me? I think local law enforcement should find out where this officer is and arrest him. Charge him with something as an example that, hey, we're not going to tolerate this. I know that's not an easy thing to do, but they would be well within their jurisdiction to do so.
Brian, we're going to see about, I don't know, another 3 years minimum before there's any kind of accountability for the action with Megan Good. Nothing's going to happen until the Trump administration's out of there.
Isn't that sad? It's really sad, Brett, but I hope you're wrong on that, but you might be right. My understanding is local law enforcement, they're allowed to press charges on Jonathan Ross. They can conduct their own investigation. They might not have the same, what's the word I'm looking for, abilities that Kristi Noem would have and the FBI, but they can conduct their own investigation and they could file state charges, and Donald Trump can't do anything about that. He can't pardon this guy on state charges. So that's my understanding, that they can go in there, they can arrest him. I don't think it'll be an easy thing to do, but I'm just throwing that out there. Why not do it? Let's go to Lou. Lou is on PTL. Hey, Lou, what's up?
Hey, Brian, how you doing?
Good.
Don't worry about it. They can't pay you enough for doing what you're doing. But let me just say, I have a question for you. First of all, they should take, listen, I trust nobody in Trump's cabinet, all the people around him. When you talk facts with them, they bring up conspiracy theories and what if this, what if that. They don't deal in facts. One question for you, though, Brian. I honestly believe that all of this is happening to take the focus off the Epstein files. I believe Trump did this purposely. We need to deflect from the Epstein files because his pictures started coming out, and you notice all that stuff.
I think that's a part of it.
Now.
I do think that that's a part of it. I'm not going to say that you're wrong. I do think that that is certainly a part of what's going on. But I do believe that Donald Trump has always wanted to be an evil dictator, and now he officially is one. Donald Trump is officially a fascist. Donald Trump is officially a wannabe evil dictator. You know, whether it be we're talking about Vladimir Putin or Kim Jong-un. I appreciate the call, my friend. I got about 30 seconds for CJ, who's next. Then we're running out of time here. What's up, CJ?
Hey, about the canceling of the elections under the Constitution, if that happens, the terms still end. So the House would basically be empty because they only have 2-year terms. A third of the Senate would be because they have 6-year terms, and a third is up for election each time. The resulting Senate would be majority Democrat. So I don't think they're going to do that for that reason.
Well, perhaps not, CJ, but here's the problem. If you're abiding by our Constitution and our law of the land, which we know the Trump administration does not do. I mean, they're literally changing the laws as we go. So I understand, and by the way, you're right. I agree with you, but I don't trust this administration with anything that they're doing. They could make up stuff as they go along, and they could totally rip up our Constitution, which they're doing every day, CJ. That is my issue with that. But I appreciate your call. You're absolutely right. You're factually accurate on that. All right, everybody. So it's been a rough week. It's been a rough week. This has been some difficult news to have to cover. I hope I've done the best I can trying to cover it for all of you. I hope you guys appreciate that. I think you do. I'm going to see my favorite band tonight. Okay. Favorite band since I was 12 years old. The band is called Live. You could look them up. Going to see them tonight on the Strip. I'm really looking forward to that. I need to get away from politics for at least one night, and then I'll be back on social media tomorrow. But that's going to be a lot of fun. We have a lot of special guests that are going to be joining us next week as well. Some that are already scheduled. And I'm going to be doing a lot more live streaming. I don't really do any live streaming other than this show. I'm going to be doing more content and more calls and more people involved with what I'm doing. Maybe later at night, a more R-rated version. Yeah, so that's the good news. And we have more news on the way. I'm going to be doing that probably at the start of February. And we'll be back at it live on Monday. Please check out my website, pushingthelimits.live. If you appreciate what I do, I ask that you go to my website, pushingthelimits.live, where you can make donations monthly or a one-time donation, whatever you can afford. We appreciate it. You're supporting independent media. Pushingthelimits.live. You'll see a little icon there that says donate. It'll take 2 minutes of your time, and whatever you can afford, we greatly appreciate your support. We'll take a weekend break, and we'll be back on Monday, same time, same place. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premium Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.